So we are going to go through, we're going to have Dr. Ozge speak, and then Ms. Rebecca Walgembe will welcome the junior scholars. But before that, I would like to also acknowledge the presence of the Chief Administrative Officer for Kalungu District, as well as a representative from the DHO, District Health Officer of Kalungu. And again, I would like to honor I would like to acknowledge the presence of our LC5 Chairman Masaka, our DEO Kalungu District, as well as the Vice Chairman LC5 of Kalungu District. Thank you. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Ozge Baha to introduce our next speaker.
Good morning, everyone, again. So I would like to first introduce Dr. Akande. Benjamin Akande is a senior advisor to the Chancellor, and he is the director of the Africa Initiative at Washington University in St. Louis. I would like to invite you, if you would like to say a few words to our Junior Conference Travel Awardees. But Dr. Fred requested me to just give an overview of all the scholars we have, because we have many categories. So our global fellows, Global Child Health Fellowship Program Fellows, and we have 4 of them represented, including myself, and Dr. Maji, the newly minted Dr. Tyrone, and Dr. Teresia are in the room with us. We became part of this program in 2016, and this program is tailored towards advanced doctoral students or new PhD graduates to work with 2 mentors that are assigned to them. And get mentorship around publications, involvement in research projects, and grant writing. So that's one category that we have. And then we have junior scholars or mentees who are already working with us, either through iChat or through Smart Africa, and then you will get a chance to hear from them today. And we, this year, for the first time, decided to create a new pipeline of potential scholars interested in child mental health and research in general. And we decided to go even younger and recruit from senior 6 high school students. We also reached out to undergraduate level students and master's level students. And we have, if I am not mistaken, 19 of them here in the room today. So they received a small scholarship to come and attend our conference today. So if you would like to stand up so that we can congratulate you all and acknowledge you. Yeah, and it was, I'm told to say out loud that it was a very competitive process. So congratulations to all of you. We're very excited to have you all here today. And if I could invite Dr. Akande, if you would like to say a few words and welcome our Junior Conference Travel Award scholars.
Thank you, Ozzy. Good morning. You know, this is my first visit to Uganda, and I experienced the uniqueness and wonderfulness of this nation from the time you land at the airport and you're driving from Entebbe to Kampala, and you see the beautiful roads and you see the lush greens. You see a nation that is trying to face up with the challenges that all nations in Africa are trying to deal with, which is how can you bring economic development, prosperity, bridge the gap between those that are in poverty-stricken situations and bring them to a place where they can have an impact. But you know, one of the greatest challenges that we face is that we never really think about our young people to the extent that we should. The notion is that we're so bogged down about the reality of the present, the challenges of our day-to-day, that we overlook the critical importance of young people who will be the ones that will lead us into the future. And we tend to have a belief that perhaps the future would take care of itself. I will submit to you that I believe that our future depends on our willingness to focus and to invest in our youth. And so I just want to congratulate the scholars that are here and to empower you to start thinking about how you're going to contribute and lead from where you are to make this nation a much stronger, a more progressive, and a definitive significant player in Africa. One of the questions that I always ask my kids, I have a 25-year-old, a 23-year-old, and a 17-year-old. And people ask me, did you adopt them? I said, no, I just look really young. I'm very old. But one of the questions that I always ask my kids is, what do you want to be remembered for? When your chair is cold and empty, when you're old and gone, what do you want to be remembered for? Do you want to be remembered for enabling others to achieve? Do you want to be remembered for challenging all of us to do better than we are? What do you want to be remembered for? And so I put the same question to the young people here. What do you want to be remembered for? And whatever that is, think about how you're going to make it possible from this moment on. How you're going to lead from where you are, and how you're going to be a positive force for the future. So when it's all said and done, people will know that you were here, and that while you were here on this earth, that you made a significant impact. Because we never want to be in a situation where 10, 20, 30 years from now, people don't even remember that we existed. You want people to talk about the difference you made, how you made society better, how you were able to create situations that strengthened us, that defy the odds, how you created next practices that became benchmarks. What do you want to be remembered for? So I want to encourage our youth, I want to encourage our scholars to start thinking about the breakthroughs, the innovation, the creative things that they're going to do to make Uganda a better place for all. Thank you very much.
I would like to remind everyone that Dr. Akande is our guest of honor for today, and he'll be speaking at 1 o'clock, so I highly encourage you. I heard that he has a very engaging, fantastic presentation, so I encourage you all to attend. Okay, I will pass it back to Miriam so that, she can guide us.
Thank you, Dr. Ozge. So I would like to welcome Miss Rebecca Walugembe, who will be our chairing the panel, the next panel.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Dr. Ozge has already explained the 3 levels of researchers they have. And this morning, we're going to have a panel comprising of the 2nd level researchers who are men and women already playing different roles with Smart Africa and iCHED. And I want to, at this point, request Dr. Apollo Chivumbi to take your seat. Dr. Apollo Chivumbi is the in-country principal investigator for Smart Africa, Uganda's scale-up study based in Masaka, where we are today. And he's a medical doctor with a keen interest in child and adolescent mental health intervention research, that aims to improve mental health at family and community levels, especially in HIV-impacted communities. Dr. Chivumbi previously served as the project coordinator for ICHED's SUBI study in Uganda, and he holds a master's degree in public health from Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. We also have Ms. Miriam Mukasa, and Miriam is the head of operations at ICHED, Uganda, field offices at Masaka, and she supervises all field activities, including data collection and monitoring of field work for all ICHED studies in Uganda. She was also pivotal in creating the health education curricula provided to SUBI adherent study participants. She's responsible for managing the center's human resource needs. Prior to joining ICHED, she worked at Mark Silver Institute of Poverty, Policy and Research at New York University as a junior research scientist. And the third one is Scovia Nasazi, who is a research assistant with ICHED, and her responsibilities include data collection, community mobilization for study participants, translation of study documents into the local languages spoken in the area, that is Luganda, and home visits as well as school and clinic visits. And then the fourth one is none other than Wilberforce Tumwesige, who is a Master of Social Work student at the Brown School at Washington University in St. Louis, and a Master's Research Fellow for Smart Africa Center. He's interested in the social determinants of health for orphans and other vulnerable children. He has previously worked on ICHED's Bridges and SUBI studies in Uganda. So these are the people we have today at the panel. And because I already mentioned that they are playing different roles in these two, Smart Africa and ICHED, I know they have a wealth of knowledge, which we will enjoy sharing as we learn. We'll start with Dr. Dr. Apollo Chivumbi. And I request that if we have any questions, just take note, the question you have for Doctor, for Miriam, for whoever, and then we'll receive these questions right at the end in the interest of saving time. Dr. Chivumbi.
Thank you, Rebecca. My task today is pretty simple. It's to share my experience with travel awardees, to see if I can encourage them to join research, especially for child and adolescent mental health. Briefly talk about myself. I'm a medical doctor, general practitioner, and I practiced for a very short time, I have to say, before I joined the field of public health and the education system in Uganda, and I'm sure pretty much the rest of Africa is the same. If you're in clinical practice, it's hard to cross over. But I was lucky, and I got the opportunity to cross over from medical practice to public health. And I found my passion there because I wasn't finding it in clinical practice for sure. So a few years ago, I started working with Dr. Fred on one of his studies. And the experience that I got, something that piqued really my interest is how we had neglected the children. And it's not so much that we can't do anything, it's just that no one really does anything. Because currently, you look at the statistics, we have one national referral hospital for mental and psychiatric disorder, Butabika, But you look at the statistics of Tabik and you can't actually believe it. It was built to house 550 patients, but right now it's over 900. And on top of that, the psychiatrists are not there because no one wants to do psychiatry. I don't know why, but the psychiatrists are not there. And when I had an opportunity to talk to the director of the referral hospital, he said that most of the people there are not supposed to be there because they have disorders that could be prevented way early in life. And after I did my master's, I came back and Smart Africa was just starting, and I told Fred, I mean, this is just a well-timed study, because according to the director, most of the people who end up there, it's not because they have the real neurological or psychiatric disorders, because they were neglected when they were starting. So what Smart Africa is doing is trying to address these challenges way early in life. Because if a child has a behavioral disorder, and this has been documented by several researchers, and everyone knows that if a child has a behavioral disorder, it's easy to correct when the child is young. Because if they grow up and it's not corrected, then you will end up having people who are always against the law. They are always fighting with the police. You have youth who rather not work but participate in riots. You have people who use drugs. So all that comes later on in life can be prevented early by, and it's not difficult to change, because all it takes is usually talking to the child. But most parents, when we ask them, they are busy, and they ask you, so if I talk to the child, who's going to pay to work for the school fees? I rather work for the school fees, and the child, will find his way in life. But all I'm saying is, for the junior travel awardees, there's a lot we can do now for the children, so that they are more productive in future. And not only that, there are a lot of opportunities at that are being presented to us. Like today, I'm happy that you got the awards to come and listen to what we have to say. Hopefully, many of you will decide, because many of you are joining university. You're just, joining university, and you can choose a career path which has a lot of impact, and you will be remembered for that, because you'll be impacting communities. Where I went for my master's, they say, you save lives, millions at a time, instead of a clinician who waits for that one client. And this is an opportunity really to save many lives along the way. In Luganda, they say kacha mamamera, okagorora kamenyeka, meaning it's easy to correct something that is just budding than something that's already grown. Because when something's already grown, it just breaks. So I encourage you to take up these opportunities. I'm happy that you did take up this one, but look out for more. And if you have any questions, if you want guidance, we're there. Our office is very close. You can always look for us and we'll help you out. But child and adolescent mental health really needs people who are committed and who really want to make change. You have politicians. Non-politicians, well, yeah. So thank you. I'll be around if you have questions now or after. And if you need someone to talk to or someone to guide you through, walk through all those decisions, if you want to decide to take up mental health, child and adolescent mental health specifically, I'll be around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Apollo. Next, we have Ms. Miriam to take us through her story.
Thank you, Ms. Walugembe. My name is Miriam Mukasa, as I introduced myself earlier, and I was asked to share my experience and how I came to work with ICHAD. So I would like to first thank you for the opportunity to share my experience as a junior scholar. I completed my bachelor's degree in psychology from Southeastern Louisiana University in Louisiana, USA. Initially, I was actually a chemistry major for pre-medicine, but I took one psychology class, Psychology 101, and that was it for me. I was intrigued by the study of human behavior. If you have children, if you have nieces, if you have nephews, I'm sure you're familiar with lots of questions from them. Why this? Why that? So psychology answers a lot of the whys, especially to do with human behavior, and this is why I was very much interested in this. I'll give an example. For example, there are some, in your day-to-day life, maybe there are some children who they've been potty trained, and then later on, let's say 11, 12 years, they start bedwetting again. And so psychology helps to answer some of those questions, you know. So why is a child suddenly wetting the bed when they are 11 or 12 and yet they had stopped that habit? Other questions examples I can give, for example, we have children who grow up in a well-to-do family, but you find them stealing things they don't even need that they already have. So those are indicators of child behavior problems. And so those are the kinds of things that intrigued me into psychology. Anyway, so upon completion of my degree, I got the opportunity to work with New York University's Max Silver Institute for Poverty Policy and Research. It's during my time here that I got a lot of exposure with research. Specifically, I got to interact with Professor Fred Sewamala's ICHAD, which brings me to here and now. During my work with Professor Fred, I got to work with a project called the SUVI Plus Adherence Study. And this study works with HIV-positive adolescents who are aware of their status and are taking ARV drugs. So most of us know teenage years can be a challenge, and it's even harder for these children. It's during this time that they no longer want to take their ARV medication. I know of one case where a lady had a boyfriend or a lover, and she stopped taking her medication when they want to be normal, and eventually the boyfriend got to find out that she was HIV positive, and she was dumped. And for a 14, 15-year-old, this is huge. This is a very huge. You're dumped as an adult and you weep, but this is even much more significant to children to that age. And so she went through a series of feeling hopeless. She started blaming her mother, because most of these adolescents we work with were perinatally infected. They got this from their parents. So they start feeling self-hate and all those negative emotions. So this is what drew me into furthering my education in clinical psychology, because seeing these children experience depression from growing up HIV positive, from so many emotions. So seeing this firsthand through my experience with the SUVI Plus Adherence Study is why I am choosing to do a master's in clinical psychology, and I hope to start in August, actually a few days from now, at Makerere University. Yeah, so that is my experience. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very, very much, Miriam. This is quite interesting. The whole purpose of sharing this information was to interest the junior. Now, that is the third level of researchers, the undergraduates and high school students. But I'm realizing from what they've shared so far that even parents and us grandparents is for us all. We might not be able to come to that table, but we can make a contribution in our own humble ways when we choose to start from our homes. Next, we are having Scovia Nasazi.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagembe. Protocol observed. I was given very few minutes, but I have a lot to talk. It's a great pleasure to be in front of you. My presentation title is Seed, Let's Choose and Let's Toward Hope in My Life. I'm going to read so as to finish what I want to present today. My name is Nasa Scovia, a female Uganda born in Chotela, one of the districts in southern Uganda. I'm an orphan. My father died in 1994 when I was at a tender age of 3 years, and my mother died in 2008 when I was in high school. It was senior 4. After the death of my father, life became unbearable. My mother and I had to struggle for survival. As a single mother, she was unable to sustain a family of 2, including my brother, i.e. meeting the basic necessities like school fees. We suffered both economically and socially. Life pushed us to the wall, and I was studying in a private school. That time, I had to leave that private school and join a government school, which was a universal primary education. It was St. Andrew's Matale, which is located in Kalisizo. When I was promoted to P7, primary 7, money became another problem. My mother told me that she did not have enough money for my registration for the primary living examination. After that message, surely I lost hope. After much thought, I asked my mother to let me at least to try to get half of the registration fee through fetching water and digging for other people, so as to get money for registration. After seeing my determination, my mother, after seeing my determination, she also told me that she will try her level best so as to proceed with my education. With that promise, I joined the primary 7. How did I came to know Subi? Toward the end of primary 7 in 2004, Reverend Father Kato, who is currently working as the Education Secretary, Masaka Diocese, told us about SEED project, and SEED in full is securing for education and entrepreneurship skills, which was recruiting orphan pupils. Being an orphan, aged 13 years old, which were among the criteria of the research protocol, I was recruited, and I was very happy for such a great opportunity in my life. After the short period of time, we were invited to meet the brain behind the SEED project, who is Professor Fred Sewamala. He told us his role in schools, and he briefed us what he will be doing in schools. He told us that we would be interviewed once a year, we will be mentored, and will be given a child development account. And he went ahead and told us about the income generating activities, starting up small businesses. And every board was praised about the idea. Before I joined Senior 1, the project had already opened up an account for me, which was a child development account. And each study participant has his or our own account. We were both boys and girls in that study. The project would match equivalently the deposited money by the participant. However, those who saved there missed out the matched money. After that case, there is a Luganda saying, abantu waliwo enjogera egamba nti tumala kwekona ne tujjukira okubuuka. Abataatereka ssente like baatuuka ekiseera ne bagamba nga bejjusa nti kale singa twateekayo ssente naye nga tekikyakola ki tekikyasoboka. The role of the CDA, when I joined the secondary school, which was Matali Church of Uganda, it is also located in Kalisizo. My mother used to pay half of the school fees. She took the bank slip to the project offices, which were located at Matali Parish, and the project would make a timely payment of the remaining balance, which was always paid at the school. Matali CU was my former school, where I attended both ordinary and advanced level. The benefits from the project, they are like, I'm going to give like 4. We were given compensation every after an interview. We were given 9,000 shilling every year for the period of the study. Secondly, we were given textbook. Those textbooks were given to the school, not the individual participants. These textbooks were very good and very expensive. They were from different subjects: chemistry, biology, physics, math, and English. These were helpful not only to the benefited study participants, but to other students in the school and the school administration at large. These textbooks are currently stored in the school library at Matali CU Church of Uganda, and they were very stamped with the stamp of SEED project, and are still open for use by other students to date. Another benefit was mentorship program that were received during the project. Sessions were conducted by SEED staff, and one of my mentor was Dr. Proskovia Nabunya, who is currently working as assistant professor at New York University. These were carried out in afternoon sessions. Females were mentored by females, and males were mentored by males. Topics which were covered included self-esteem, education planning and setting goals, saving and asset development, HIV/AIDS, SOC/AIDS and STDs, STI, knowledge, puberty and ABC model, and protection from abuse, among others. This added a great value to each attendee in every session. Another benefit, I'm remaining with just 1 minute, but I don't know what I'm going to do because I have a lot to talk. Maybe they had like 5 minutes so as to complete my presentation.
We need to consult Dr. Osge. Is that possible?
We can give you 2 minutes, Claudia, and then maybe some of part of your story would actually come about as they ask you questions.
Yes.
Okay.
So 2 more minutes, Kovia. Scobia, maybe to help you a little bit, can you just wrap up where you are today? where we
Okay.
are today.
Okay. Special thanks to Professor Fred Sewamala, who fulfilled the promises he made on the first day we met him. I completed my advanced level with 17 points, and I also graduated from Sub-Saharan Loyal University with a Bachelor of Arts with with a Bachelor of Arts with Education. I was also given an opportunity to go to US. I cannot forget that. I went to USA, but nalirinya. This year it was January. It was Feb. I was invited as a beneficial, as a former participant, to attend the big conference which was organized and co-sponsored by ICHAD and Smart Africa Center together with Washington University, the Brown School of Social Work in St. Louis, and I'm very happy for that. The conference sponsors covered my air ticket, the local meals, the transportation, and everything. So my conclusion, despite the challenges we had as a family, SEED Project should be given credit for having done this great job to the vulnerable children in Uganda, because if it wasn't Professor Fred Sewamala and his heart and his love for Ugandan, I wouldn't have been here and I wouldn't have been what I am.
Thank you very much, Scovia.
Yeah, it should be noted that people like Professor Fred are very few in this world. May the Almighty God bless him and reward him abundantly together with his funders. So SEED Project laid the ground for other projects. Isubi Maka, Subi Prasad Hearings, Bridges, and Smart Africa Center. Nalime Wagonda, Atera Nanyuka. That's all I have to
Thank you
for you today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Scovia. That is quite a moving testimony. And talk about being moved from shambles to glory. Scovia is the right testimony for that. But we want to applaud. We've had so much in what Scovia was telling us, because the first two people, they come from a different background altogether. You hear the schools they went to do and so on and so forth. But look at Scovia. But they're all at the end of the day geared towards the same mission, the same goals, to make good to others. Can we applaud Smart Africa, ICHAD, and the Washington University in St. Louis? Thank you. So lastly, but not least, we are having Wilberforce Tumwesije.
Hi everyone, my name is Wilberforce Tumwesige. Similarly, like Scovia, I'm going to go into the same line. My interest to pursue a Master's of Social Work was influenced by my personal, professional, and academic experiences. I also grew up as a person without my father. My father died when I was still young. I did not get a chance to see him, so I grew up with my mother, and she was always struggling to make ends meet, struggling to see that I can go to school and together with my other siblings. While I was struggling to stay in school, I got a chance to participate in one of Dr. Fred Sewamala's studies. And in that study, Dr. Fred Sewamala opened up accounts in my name. So it was a matching savings account. My guardian by then, she was my aunt. She started saving money on that account, and that account would be matched, and then that matched money would help to pay for tuition and other scholastic needs. So that helped me to finish a certain level of my education, And then Scobia talked about the mentorship where you could meet with a mentor from iChat. So that mentorship provided me with the skills, and it motivated me to make decisions and life decisions, what you want to be in future, how to maintain yourself, and how to avoid all those risky behaviors. So it was through that mentorship that I was able to prosper. And then we got other scholastic materials like uniforms and books, and also we got books and everything. Then with all that support, I was encouraged to work hard, and after my senior 6, I joined Mutesa Royal University, where I graduated with a bachelor's in social work. As I joined Mutesa Royal University, I approached Professor Fred Sewamala and then told him about my situation. Dr. Fred Sewamala offered me an opportunity to work with iChad part-time and at the same time going to school. So I worked at iChad and then going to Mutesa Royal University for my bachelor's in social work. Working with iChad was a great experience to me. It really inspired me to even read hard and harder, because some of the things we would do in the office were the very things I used to study in class. So I was integrating the theoretical perspectives in class with the fieldwork activities, and that improved my grades and my desire to work hard and everything. It was an inspiration. And then working with iChad people inspired me. People like Dr. Fred Sewamala, he's a professor, and you always want to work hard and try to be like him. So after my graduation at Mutesa Royal University, I was offered a full-time job still at iChad, and I worked full-time for 1 year as I was processing for to apply for a master's degree. After, I was admitted at Washington University in St. Louis, and I'm now a Master of Social Work student at Washington University in St. Louis. I just finished my first year. I'm going back in August to also start on my second year. I'm really very thrilled. I'm so grateful for iChad. I'm so grateful for Dr. Fred Sewamala. I'm so grateful for all the people that have supported me. Had it not been Dr. Fred Sewamala, I don't think I would be this far. Because first of all, he's an inspiration. And then when you go to the field and work with the communities, families, and the children in schools, you get exposed to the various kinds of problems that the people are facing. And then you try to also find some solution, what you could do to change people's lives. So I'll not go further with the interest of time, but I'll be available if you have any questions. I'm willing to answer any questions that may come up. I also have plans in the future. I think I'll not stop on the master's. If the opportunity comes, I'll go also for a PhD. And I'm grateful to my supervisor, Dr. Ozigi Sensory Baha. She's my supervisor. I'm a master's research fellow at Washington University working with Smart Africa. And Dr. Ozigi is guiding me well and providing me with all the knowledge I need to see that child mental health is given a step ahead. So thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Wilberforce. You agree with me, ladies and gentlemen. This explains the high level of commitment these people have when implementing their different projects. It's driven from a very long story and very, very strong attachments. Thank you and thank you. Now, this is question time. Do we have questions for Dr. Apollo? Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Apollo. My name is Judy Mbabali, Chairman, Eros 5, Masaka District. You talked about psychiatry and pointed out that many students don't want to do that course. Let me hope I quoted you properly. You have also talked about politicians, and somehow you stopped in the middle, you feared. I think when you remembered that I'm here, you said, eh, then you didn't finish the statement. However, my question is, as now an experienced researcher in this area of psychiatry, what would be your advice? Because for us politicians, we are policy makers. If our students don't want to do a certain course and we think it is necessary, we can influence policy so that probably make it compulsory, or we do something about it so that we make it attractive to the students. I'd wish to hear from you about that. I have another question for Miriam. Can I raise it? Yes, Miriam, you talked about AIDS. And according to you, and of course it is obvious to everybody that it's a big problem. Can anyone here, including you, tell us how far the research for an AIDS cure has gone? Because we need to know. That's where people are telling us we should always aspire to have a cure for AIDS. But whoever researches doesn't tell us how far they have gone. But I'm sure there are some people who are doing work on AIDS cure. So we wish to know how far the world have gone towards achieving, towards getting the cure for HIV/AIDS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jude. So I will not finish the sentence about politicians, but as per what can politicians do to influence students to do psychiatry? Not long ago, about 10 years ago, anesthesia had the same issue. No students wanted to do anesthesia. But what the government did is it prioritized anesthesia, and it gave them a lot of scholarships. And what happened, students applied more than the scholarships could hold. So currently there are a lot of anesthesiologists out there. And many of my colleagues, after we graduated, they didn't actually practice. They just went and did anesthesia straight, and there are very many. So when you look at scholarships from the government, you'll find 2 are for psychiatry, 10 are for surgery. Generally, the ministry does not prioritize psychiatry. So if you could put a lot more emphasis and priority on psychiatry, I'm very sure you'll get a lot more students applying for it. Thank you.
And then I think the second question was about cure. How close are we to curing AIDS?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mbabali, for your question. I am not a medical doctor, and Dr. Apollo, you can feel free to jump in, or any other medical practitioners in the room. However, I know that encouraging especially adolescents to adhere to their medication really suppresses their viral loads. And for example, between if the viral load is suppressed enough, we can get rid of mother to child transmission. So for right now, we are focusing more on getting people to adhere to medication, because the medication is there, but still people are not adhering to it. So we're trying to eliminate those factors.
Maybe just to add just one thing. So the cure it's like a distant light. The people who develop the cure, who are working to get the cure, they always say they are close, and they are not close. So realizing that, the current efforts are to stop transmission. That's why we have even the DREAMS project. So if we stop the transmission, then the need for a cure it reduces, in short. So right now what we are doing, we're trying to curb on transmission, like Miriam said. Those who are positives, they adhere to their medications. Those who are not, they stay without HIV.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Apollo. Maybe I should also say something else, if I've chair, because of my 15 years work with TASO, the oldest HIV/AIDS NGO in Africa. I'm aware that research on the prevention was very successful, and sooner or later we're going to have the immunization. At least that's the best we have today, but otherwise, like the both of them have explained, we can continue doing that until that day when we have the cure. I want to encourage the third level. Allow me to use that because this is the only way we can get the differences, as Dr. Osge explained. These are the undergraduates and the high school students who were lucky to be selected to become researchers at that level, to get interested in research. Ask as many questions as possible. Because yes, we have a cocktail, a mixture of people from different disciplines, including politicians. But the primary objective for this particular conference, for today that is, was for you to learn from those experience. So please, we encourage you to ask as many questions as possible, and we are going to give you priority. And on the other hand, I'm humbly requesting, with all due respect, the others, allow us when we limit the questions from non-junior scholars. Please don't take offense. We don't have anything against you, but we just want to make sure that we meet the objectives of this particular conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Agawa Davis, an undergraduate from Uganda Matters University. And my question is, Dr. Apollo and the panelists, we would love to know, because we have heard of doctors here, professors, and some of us, we have not yet even acquired a bachelor's degree. So it's all new to us, and we would love to know the difference between Smart Africa, iChad, and SEED. And the last one is, how can we, because we have already developed the passion to come on board with Smart Africa and iChad, how can we also be there like you? Because this is the trend we are taking current. Thank you.
Wow, that's a good one. Who takes it on? You didn't. Anyone can take it on. So who takes that on?
I'll take it on. So, Mr. Gaba, right? Yes. So, iChad is International Center for Child Health and Development. It is the one that houses, the center that houses all these studies you hear, SEED, that Scovia was part of, SUBI plus adherence that I talked about, Smart Africa. We had Bridges to the Future. So it's and SMART and those are the different projects that have different aims. I encourage you to attend the poster presentation that's coming up next to learn about the different studies, because I can't go into detail about what they do. And then the second question of how can you get involved? We usually recruit senior 6 vacists, and even at university level. I think some of them are over there. If you can stand up for recognition, Oscar and Nicholas and the team. Yes, those have worked with us. They are at university and they started with us and while they were in Essex VAC. So we have positions where they help us collect data, interacting with children. And yeah, so that is a place to start. Yeah.
Miriam, may I add one little thing? Just going back to your question about the difference between Smart Africa and iChad. So Smart Africa Center houses 3 studies currently, and iChad houses what we call Smart Africa Uganda. And then we have a study in Kenya, and then we have a study in Ghana. And our researchers, our Kenya team and our Ghana team are also represented in the room. And the Smart Africa projects focus specifically on child behavioral health. Okay, I hope that helps. Okay, great.
Thank you. My name is Iga Martin. I'm in Senior 6 at Archbishop Chwanuka. My question goes to Dr. Prochivumbi. You talked about child and adolescent behavioral mental health, and you talked that there are a lot of careers under that field. Could you please tell us some of the careers in those fields?
Wow, thank you. So, one, now it will depend on what combination you do. You know that in Uganda, that's how it is, you know. But if you take the medical line, you can become a doctor, you can become a clinical officer, you can become a nurse, and when you do that, you can be a nurse but be specific for child and adolescent, or a pediatric nurse. So, and then you can further specialize into mental health. But also you can do psychology, you can do social work, and still be specific for child and adolescent mental health. Like here in the room, people have done, like Miriam was saying, for her she did psychology, but now she's going to do clinical psychology, and her interest is in mental health. So you don't have to do those hard things, PCB, those things. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Raymond, fourth year medical student in Islamic University in Uganda. My question goes to Dr. Apollo. The issue of the issue of child mental health most times originates from the lower levels, yes? Because as much as we may try to intervene with a 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, he's almost trying to correct something that has already been there before. We have an issue of, in pediatrics called protein energy malnutrition, which is usually chronic or acute malnutrition. And protein is very important for the structural development of the brain. Without that necessary amount of protein, there's usually degradation in understanding, retardation, class performance, and all that. And the general aspect with time, all these come back to the child. If the child is the last in class all the time, this will bring stigma to the child's life. So instead but on top of trying to improve the skills of learning of these children, what about going to that very low level of improving the nutrition of the children? Then the other issue was to Mariam about HIV. Adherence is a very complicated thing. Before what we used to struggle with was the drug overload, the drug load, I mean. So you find the patient has to swallow almost 6 to 8 tablets in one day. But now the new regimens that have come around have you swallowing almost 3 tablets in one day, which improved on adherence. That is true. Someone. But stigma is the main issue that they will face. This is like trying to tell someone that's being bullied to put up with the bully, yeah, instead of actually talking to the bully to stop bullying, yeah. So even much as we are teaching the children or any other person to use their drugs, to adhere to them, and also to get through the stigma, I think the rest of the community at large, the one that you're associated with, should also be reminded that HIV is not a sin, it's not a crime. Just any other illness. Some are even worse than HIV. They should be more supportive of people who are taking these medications instead of stigmatizing them. Thank you.
Yes, do you want a response to that? No, that was just information.
Okay, I have one person here.
Okay.
Just like the stigma kids. Sometimes they might tell them that we have a stigma drug going in, so that, because that's a very valid point.
Sure, yes. So the iChat and Smart Africa teams are working on putting together a grant application to the National Institutes of Health in the United States to evaluate an intervention that may actually help reduce both internalized and external stigma associated with HIV. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed that it goes through, and then hopefully then in the next conferences we'll be able to report to you on what we are finding, okay?
My name is Ezra Kanjiru from Kabali Sanji. My question goes to Madam Susan. We've heard you sharing your story to us. And how far have you gone in helping the orphans? Thank you.
Ms. Skovia, this question was for you.
I'll help Ms. Skovia to answer your question. So how far has she gone helping the orphans? Or how far have we gone to help the orphans? We are employed by ICHAD, and we extend ICHAD's work to these children. We have various programs with these studies, and we hope the projects to run those programs like mentorship. If you go to those to the schools and provide mentorship to the participants, there will be some change in some way if they get the message you're trying to deliver to them. So that's how we are trying to help the orphans. And again, we are also gaining more skills and knowledge. As I said earlier, I'm a master's student at Washington University in St. Louis. I'm trying to expand my knowledge and experience on how best I can help orphans and make change in the communities.
Thank you very much. I want just one more question, and strictly from one of the junior scholars. But I also want to encourage all of us. We will not have enough time. This is a very, very important topic to all of us. You can talk to these people. They'll be around. Ask them as many questions as you can, and share their experience and so on and so forth. All right? But now, strictly one, and it has to be one of the selected few.
Thank you. Yes, I've won. My name is Ruth Grace Bavidia, and I'm a medical student at Bar University in my 5th year. And I want to talk about some of the things that he has mentioned, how we have very few psychiatrists in the country. And during my practice, that was just last year, I had an experience in the psychiatry ward. However, this is just for only 4 weeks or even less. And it's good that the government of Uganda has actually put this as a must in the curriculum of medical school, that we should have a psychiatry rotation. And during this rotation, I experienced a lot of stigma and discrimination towards people that have mental health issues. And that's also amongst us medical students. And that's perhaps why we do not have very many psychiatrists come up and take on this profession. Some of the things that I would like to suggest perhaps to ICAD or Smart Africa Uganda would be, could we have something about stigma addressed in medical schools? That could be, it could be a little, just like this workshop, but it could also be a workshop at our own institutions. I would be very glad to invite Dr. Fred over to Mbara University so that you can come and talk to some medical students. They really need this. And yes, we have very interesting psychiatrists, but it's hard to pull a medical student towards this and the way we practice it. The other thing is the policymakers asked what can they do. The mental health policy has been in draft form for a very long time, I think since 2006. Perhaps if you would have this implemented, that would be a very great thing for all Ugandans. And also, during our practice, we have opportunities to go to communities, and we experience that at Mbara University, when our own psychiatrists go out into the communities only like once in 2 weeks or once in 2 weeks, once a week. So this is interesting, given that we only have one national referral hospital for mentally challenged people, and also have one regional referral for the Mbara and southwestern region. So perhaps the government could also look at expanding such services to people rooted down there in more rural areas in Uganda. And another thing that's very important is that the medications are not available. So that's something that perhaps the government should increase budgeting towards medications for such conditions, the antipsychotics. These are really needed. And I would also like to add word to one of the participants and say we want to look at some of the research results that you have from the research that you've been doing. That's to Madame Miriam Mukasa. And also looking at what you mentioned about how the young people respond towards having HIV. Well, during clinical practice, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, I'm just trying to rush. During clinical practice, we also experience not only adolescents, but also young people who are recently diagnosed HIV positives and they cannot handle the news. So in my experience, I had a patient who came in, she was moving, but then she had just recently found out she was HIV positive and she had refused to take the medication. And I don't know if she later died because after 3 days she couldn't move anymore and there was no money for her at the hospital or any care offered. So question is, as you're looking at maybe the stigma, how much counseling is being given these days to people who are HIV positive? Is it because we have too much of the off-counter kits that people can easily go and test themselves and know I'm positive or I'm negative? How much counseling is being given to such people? And also looking at the stigma related, how do people respond to stigma? Something like that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Wow. So where do we start?
Exactly, wow.
There's a whole bunch of issues raised here.
Yeah, I'll first react to Mr. Yusuf and Raymond's question. It's basically the same. Raymond answered your question about prevention. Prevention is always better than cure, and the earlier you start, the better. So if we can look at these children, like Raymond said, take care of their nutrition, and what Smart Africa is doing is identifying the emerging behavioral issues and trying to address them. And that goes to you politicians, that if we have these results and present them to you, what are you willing to do with them? So at the end of the day, the question will be on your desk. We shall give you the facts, and what you do with them is entirely to to the people who voted you, what you want to do for them. Jude, yes, and to just to answer your question, so a lot of things have changed, and I'm not really I'm not really sure of the current policy, whether they are allowed off-the-counter testing for HIV, but if they did, that would have... I personally had a problem with that, because there wouldn't be counseling, and the person is testing themselves in their bathroom, and you're not sure what they are going to do with the results if they're positive. So I was one of the people who was against the self-testing, but pretty much counseling is still the same. There's still a lot of pre and post counseling, and for children and adolescents, a lot has been emphasized that they should really have someone, especially if they turn out positive, they really have to disclose. Or if they are a little older, but if they are a little younger, you have to talk to their guardian, and a lot of emphasis is really being put on the families to accept them, not to stigmatize them, because stigma is everywhere. But if the family is okay with you, then you have a safe place to go to. So a lot of counseling is still being done. I don't think there's been any slack in counseling, and you can only do so much and hope the person will take their medication. Miss Rebecca is a counselor. She's been for the past so many years, so she can attest to that counseling is not getting any lighter.
Yeah, actually, just to add on, most of the interventions that were done over 30 years ago were based on counseling, both pre and post. Although the donors now are taking a twist, they want to see more research into the AIDS management than just the care and treatment. Still, counseling is happening, but also I'm concerned because I know that there are people who go to private hospitals, not that I have anything about them, but they don't get the appropriate counseling that is required in pre and post testing. And that is where the biggest problem is. But after that is said, there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of training going on along those lines, because we can't do away with counseling. And we don't only need it at pre and post, but it must be continuous, because there are many challenges that come along the way, even after people have started on the antiretroviral therapy. There's a lot. So counseling, we can't do away with counseling in HIV and AIDS management. They go hand in hand. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on that, and I'm Fred Sawamala. So just to add on that, even with research, where you're emphasizing research, before a child, right now we are doing a study called Subi for Her, where we are recruiting 1,260 girls, ages 14 to 17, so you can tell what we are dealing with. And we are drawing blood, we are doing vaginal swabs, and we are testing STIs. But we have counselors who have to do we are researchers, we have counselors who have to counsel these kids before anything is done, so that they know exactly what they are getting into. Not my research team. These are people who have been trained at TASO, Chitov Mobile, and all the big RHSP, all the big HIV testing centers. And then, when the results come back, still it's the counselor who really passes on the results to the kid again after giving them post-testing counseling. So, even when you're a researcher, it doesn't exclude you from doing the basics that are needed. Because issues of disclosure are extremely very, very complicated. And you cannot just rush them. And even when the kid says, I'm not ready to receive the results, whether they are positive or negative, you say, when are you ready to receive the results? And that kind of stuff. So even us as researchers, we emphasize counseling, because like Dr. Apollo said, and Ms. Rebecca said, that is still the basic. I mean, that's like basic. Everyone needs to get that. Then in terms of stigma, of course, the problem with stigma is extremely very, very complicated, because there is internal stigma within you yourself. There is external stigma which is put on the community members, the way they look at you, and even from within families themselves, and from our teachers, and even from people who are seated in this room. I've done this work for the last 15 years, and we worked with children who had been orphaned as a result of HIV and AIDS. These are not kids who are HIV positive because we are not testing them, but because a father or a mother died from HIV and AIDS. And you go to a school, you are recruiting these kids, and the teacher says, but why are you wasting your time? And you say, why? They are going to die anyway. Their dad died from HIV/AIDS. And then I've told them I'm not a god to decide who is dying tomorrow or today. I may die when I'm flying back to the US and all that. So even within the community, people who are taking care of these kids, they don't know, but it's hearsay. There's that kind of stigma. I'll tell you, for our study, SUBI adherence study, we have done a lot of studies like Miriam indicated. We had over 990 kids who were screened, who were found to be on medication, because for that study, one of the inclusion criteria was that a child must be on medication, but they must know why they're on medication. Over 200 kids out of 700, out of the 990, didn't know why they were taking this medication. Their parents knew, or their caregivers knew, but the kids didn't know, and they were told, you are taking medication because you have a constant headache, we want that headache to go away, because we want you to become bright in class so that you can be on top of your class. And then these kids were in denial, the parents were in denial and the kids didn't know. And then the parents would tell you, do you mind disclosing to them? Because I feared, for the last 10 years, they have been taking their medication. So there's a lot, and you are telling them, no, it's really not my responsibility as a researcher, this is a process. So, so issues of stigma are huge. Issues of disclosure are still very, very huge. Even in an area where almost there is no family, where I work, in Masaka region, that has not directly been affected by HIV and AIDS. None that I know of. Either that has not lost a brother, or a sister, or a cousin, or a neighbor to HIV AIDS. Even in that area, issues of disclosure and issues of stigma are still huge, huge, huge. So I think it calls for a concerted effort. It calls for each one of us really to take a lead in addressing issues of stigma. We can only do so much as researchers. It will be you in the room to figure out how do we address that. So for the proposal that we are putting in, which we are putting in actually tomorrow, we are proposing that we use some of the approaches we have used in the past, which are multiple family groups, where you bring different families together and talk about these issues. But we are also trying to propose, working with colleagues from Uganda, CBT approaches to be able to figure out, but these will be probably also group, to be able to address both internalized and externalized stigma. But again, our studies are just a drop in the ocean, but like I always tell people, you have to start somewhere. But the reason you are here is for you to be our ambassadors, and for you to come and work with us, and for us to, and by the way, I'll be happy to come to Mbarara. I've been there before. Miss Kembaba's, I think her name was Mbaba's, she invited me one time, I gave a presentation, only that she kept me for a full day from room to room, which was fine, but I'll be very happy to come to Mbarara and talk to you guys. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Fred, and that brings us to the end of this session. And I want to appreciate all the contributions, the panel, and the members present. We are now moving into another session of posters, and Dr. Osge is going to take the lead in that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And I would like to encourage our conference travel awardees to please find these very distinguished scholars. They're going to be around all day. And please feel free to ask them any questions that you have not been able to ask during this session. So now I would like to invite you to our poster session. It's going to be in this room. And I would like to invite our authors to go stand by their posters so that they can answer questions. I also would like to add that we have 3 judges who are evaluating our posters, and we will have small prizes for...
Not small.
Okay, not small. We'll have prizes.
Announce them.
Okay, so for the first place we'll have $50. For the second place we'll have $30, and for the third place we'll have $20, and we will announce our winners at the end of the day.
And then I wanted to add on the presents. $50 in Uganda, based on the World Bank assessment of poverty. $50 in Uganda feeds a family for 25 days. Am I right? $2. Am I right? It's $2 a day. So $50 is 25 days. So it's a big gift. $30 feeds a family for 15 days. $20 for 10 days. So we are giving out the best 3.